You are not too nice. You have never been too nice. What you actually have is a habit of trading your own needs for other people's comfort. And today, that habit ends. Think about the last time someone asked you for something you didn't want to give. Your time, your energy, a favor you didn't have room for. And before you even had a chance to think it through, you heard yourself say yes. Then, hours later, alone with your own thoughts, the resentment crept in. You replayed the conversation. You imagined all the things you should have said instead. But you didn't say them, because in that moment, no felt more dangerous than yes. Here's what's actually going on. This isn't a flaw in your character. It's not because you care too much. It's a learned pattern, and every learned pattern can be unlearned. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why this happens in your brain. And you're going to walk away with 3 specific scripts you can use the next time someone tries to take advantage of your time or your goodwill. No guilt required. No long explanations. Just calm, simple boundaries that actually hold up. Let's start with where this pattern actually comes from. People-pleasing has almost nothing to do with generosity. It's about safety. At some point, usually early in life, you learned that keeping the people around you happy was the safest way to move through the world. Maybe conflict in your household felt unpredictable or even dangerous. Maybe affection felt conditional, like it had to be earned by being agreeable. Maybe having needs of your own led to being dismissed, or worse, punished for it. So your brain made a decision on your behalf. It decided your preferences mattered less than everyone else's comfort, because managing that comfort was how you stayed safe. That decision might have been the smartest move available to you back then, when you had no real power to change your circumstances. But you're an adult now, and the old program is still running quietly in the background. Every time you say yes when your gut is screaming no, you're not being generous. You're responding to a threat that statistically almost never actually materializes anymore. Here's the part most people get wrong. Guilt is not proof that you did something wrong. Guilt in this context is just an old alarm system misfiring. It goes off the moment you do something unfamiliar, like protecting your own time or turning someone down. It's not a moral signal. It's a discomfort signal, and those are very different things. You don't need to wait for the guilt to disappear before you set a boundary. You set the boundary anyway, and the guilt fades on its own, the same way any unfamiliar sensation does once you've felt it a few times and survived it. So here's your first move. Start paying attention to the half second before you say yes. That tiny window where your gut already knows the answer is no, but your mouth is already moving toward yes anyway. That gap is where everything changes. If you can catch it even once today, you've already started breaking the cycle. Now let's talk about why certain people always seem to target the people pleasers in the room, because this isn't a coincidence either. The people who take advantage of others usually aren't villains twirling a mustache somewhere. Most of them aren't even fully aware of what they're doing. What they've learned, through repeated interaction with you specifically, is that applying a little pressure tends to work. Every time you folded under that pressure before, you've unintentionally taught the people around you that pressure is an effective tool to use on you. That's not a character flaw on your part. It just means the pattern won't fix itself. It only changes when your response changes. Here's the proof, and you'll see it almost immediately once you try it. The very first time you hold a boundary with someone who's used to you giving in, expect friction. They might push back. They might act surprised, even a little offended. That reaction doesn't mean you did something wrong. It means the old dynamic used to work in their favor, and now it doesn't. People rarely get upset over a boundary that's always existed. They get upset the moment one suddenly appears where it didn't before. That discomfort you feel, and the discomfort they show, is usually a sign you're doing this exactly right. So here's the practical takeaway. Expect some resistance the first few times you try this. Don't treat that resistance as a signal to retreat. It almost always fades within a handful of interactions, once people learn the new terms of engagement with you. Now let's get to the part you're really here for. 3 scripts ready to use in real conversations, without over-explaining yourself or justifying your existence to anyone. The first script is for those on-the-spot moments, when someone asks for something and expects an instant answer. Most people say yes purely because being put on the spot feels uncomfortable, not because they've actually decided. The fix is simple. You say, "Let me check and get back to you." That's the whole line. No elaboration necessary. It buys you the space to actually consult what you want, instead of defaulting to whatever feels safest under pressure. The second script is for delivering a direct no without drowning it in guilt or excuses. Most people over-explain their no because they assume a longer reason makes it more acceptable. In reality, it usually just hands the other person more material to argue with. Instead, try this. "That doesn't work for me, but thanks for asking." Notice what's absent. No apology hiding inside it. No justification tacked on. It's short, it's polite, and it's complete. The shorter your no, the harder it is for anyone to talk you out of it. The third script is for the moment someone pushes back after you've already said no, because this will happen, especially with people who are used to you eventually caving. In that moment, you don't need a fresh argument. You need to repeat your original answer, calmly, without raising the temperature. Try this. "I hear you, but my answer's still no." You're simply declining to reopen a decision that's already been made. Most pushback loses its momentum after just one or two calm repetitions. Here's what ties all three together. You don't need an airtight argument to hold a boundary. You need one short, steady sentence, and the willingness to repeat it without flinching. Almost every boundary that collapses does so because of one extra sentence. One more justification that hands the other person a new angle to push on. There's one more piece worth understanding, because it's what makes all of this stick long term. Boundaries aren't about becoming difficult or cold. They're about accuracy. When you say yes to everything, the people around you don't actually get to know you. They get a version of you shaped entirely by what they need in that moment. When you hold even a small boundary, you're giving people real, accurate information about who you are and what you actually want. That's not selfishness. That's honesty. And the people genuinely worth having in your life tend to respect you more once they understand where you actually stand, not less. So here's what to do in the next 24 hours. The next time you feel that familiar pull to say yes to something you don't want, pause. Use one of these three lines. Watch what actually unfolds. 9 times out of 10, it's far less dramatic than the story your guilt has been telling you for years. If this changed the way you see people-pleasing, subscribe to The Self-Stranger, because this channel breaks down practical psychology like this every single day. Real tools you can actually use in real conversations, not just concepts to think about. And I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me which of these 3 scripts you're trying first. Or share a moment you wish you'd had one of these ready to use. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your own time. A short no, said calmly, will always serve you better than a long yes you never meant.